ministry, I see a crowded room, and I'm thinking I shouldn't say this, but my thought while I was listening to that was just like, I want to take that song into the bubble bath. Is that okay? Never mind. Let's move on. Yeah. So, thank you, music ministry, and thank you, Shantae, for that beautiful meditation. I told her after the first service, just again, one of the reminders of what we get to plant for ourselves and the way in which other people get to enjoy what is birthed through that process. So thank you for that. So we are celebrating Unity on the Bay Day, and it is so awesome to see so many of you here, some very familiar faces, some faces that we've been missing, and some new faces. And it's just really wonderful that we can come together in unity and to experience the power, the energy, and the consciousness that makes up Unity on the Bay. And so I am very proud of who we are as a community, which reminds me of these two individuals that were very proud of the communities that they attended. They were having these conversations, right, back and forth. My community is better, and my community is better, and at my community we do this, and at my church we do that. And one of them just said, well, my community is very welcoming. And then the other one says, well, in my community we actually welcome all denominations, especially 10s and 20s. For those of you who are new, no, we do hope that we see you again. And because this is unity and we don't believe in limitation and we believe in abundance, we accept 50s, 100s, credit cards, and checks. But the reality is that if you've been a part of Unity on the Bay, you know that all denominations are welcome. So many of us come from different faith traditions and have found ourselves coming together in recognition of the truth that is not only deep within us, but truly what has inspired so many spiritual paths. And so here we are in a community that is so diverse, from the denominations that we came from, the different ways in which we ourselves are expressions of different cultures and different ways of being. And I really invite you to just look around the room and to see the diversity, the many faces of God, the many different beautiful ways in which God is in our midst. And if you're watching from home, you experienced it in our choir, in those that are part of our platform in our community. And, you know, we all have come to be part of the kaleidoscope, I'm calling it today, of Unity on the Bay. And yes, we are very different in many different ways, and we have so many things that really bind us together. And this morning, what's really coming up for me is that one of those things is that we're all sort of misfits. We're all sort of misfits. You know, something within us knew that this idea of a God outside of us who was judging us, that just wasn't true for us. That didn't feel true for us. This idea that heaven is just a place that you go to, you know, afterlife. No, like that we can actually live here, heaven on earth, that it is for this life, it is for this incarnation for us to experience the grace, the beauty that is God. So many of us, you know, didn't want to do with this idea that life was just about survival, and trusted and knew and felt the grace of God showing us that life was to thrive in, that life was to be thrived through. And so many of us, myself included, found ourselves here at Unity on the Bay because we knew that regardless of the color of our skin, regardless of our background, our gender identity, the gender of those that we love, regardless of those things, we are sacred, actually, because of those things. We are sacred. We are honored to be full expressions and embodiment of the divine that lives within us and that lives in humanity. And so, first and foremost, as we celebrate Unity on the Bay Day, just look around the room and once again, like, just give yourself props for being Unity on the Bay. Seriously, give yourself props. Give yourself a round of applause. You know, Us misfits found a place. Us misfits found a place, and we are awakening, and we can recognize that, yes, we may be misfits, but can you see and can you feel that we're growing in number? We're growing in number. We're growing in power. We're growing into embodying the power and the strength that is within us, and we are able to not only envision heaven on earth for us and for other people, but we are continuing to live it more and more. And that is the power that is within being in community. And so many times I know, especially with New Thought and in Unity, it is about the self-work, right? And the self-healing and the self-activation that we are invited into. And that is powerful, and I don't like to stay just in that, because as I heal, humanity heals. As I am empowered, humanity is empowered. And in our divine connection with each other, everything that I work on in myself is that which is a blessing to those around me, a blessing to humanity and the world itself. And so we are able to work on the me and do so from the place of the we, the one community, the one power, the one oneness that is alive in us. And we are being invited to live into that more fully, and we're being pulled by it, actually. We're being pulled into new ways of being and into a higher level of not only individual consciousness, but a higher level of collective consciousness. Many teachers, many spiritual luminaries, evolutionary thinkers have been talking about that in the last 10 years, although some of us may not fully feel it sometimes, that there has been an opening. An evolutionary readiness is what they're calling it, to experience our oneness, to experience our togetherness and our relatedness in a deeper and more expansive way. And it really is something that is not only being birthed in us individually, but truly, if we really feel into what is taking place, it's happening around us also. Patricia Albert, who is one of those evolutionary thinkers, says, we need to embrace a new higher order of belonging that includes the complexity of being profoundly unique while being in communion with others inside of shared unity. Now there is that word again, unity. And I just love, for those of you who may not know, it came to our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, in a dream to call this movement unity. And I just think that's so special that it came to him in a dream, because as I recognize the power of the movement and the teachings and the consciousness of unity in my life, what it's doing is activating the dreams that are within me and making them a reality. Have you experienced that yourself? The dreams, the visions, that which you've held dear within you, you are starting to continue to live into it. And as we live into those dreams, we're invited to dream even bigger and live into them bigger. Yes? Amen? We are. That is what is taking place here and now in unity. Now, another word that has unity in it, community. And we are a powerful community. And in that word itself, community comes from the Latin common, something that we have in common, right? But in that very word community is the potential that we can experience as we say yes to being together, to being connected, to walking through those doors or turning on that computer and TV, of experiencing God in the midst of us and as each other. Now, did you know, especially those that are coming into, I don't know the science for those that are watching from home, but I know the science from those that walked into this room, that as soon as we started walking into this room, our heartbeats started to try to sync up. And the more that we are together, our heartbeats do sync up. And when I think of that, I realize that that is part of that impulse of our togetherness. It is in our very own DNA and way of being to harmonize with each other, because that is truly the space of God. That is truly our divine identity. And each and every one of us is a living expression of that impulse. And you each have answered the call. You've answered the call to say yes to the impulse, because one thing is to feel the impulse, right? And another thing is to be willing to step into it, into what we are being invited and called into. Sig Paulson, who wrote the book called The Book of Unity, It says this, it is the love in our hearts that enables us to see and to feel the wholeness of creation. Now, in this age, we are coming together and discovering that we have never been apart. How many of you, when you walked into Unity, just felt, I'm home. This is where I belong. This is not only where I belong, this is where I've belonged. Because I've been here. My heart has been here. And that is the evolution that we have been invited into. And that is the evolution that I believe that each of us are really stepping into. And it can also sometimes feel like a revolution. And Patricia Albert, what she calls it is the we-volution. The evolution into the we, the power of the collective consciousness, and the power of not only our individual awakening, but the power of our mutual awakening. So that when we are building heaven on earth, we're holding hand in hand and enjoying that heaven on earth with each other, and through that, experiencing it in a much sweeter way. Now, I say all of this recognizing that it can feel, and actually I think it is, that we are at a very important crossroad in human evolution, in the human journey. Do you feel like that sometimes? That it's like we're having to choose, right? Which path to take. And although the paths seem clear sometimes, it feels difficult sometimes to make the decision. The path of togetherness, the path of caring for each other, even through our diversity and the different ways of experiencing life and the different ways of thinking about life. And having to choose to care for each other and walk hand in hand in this journey, as Ramdas says, walking each other home. And the other side where, sometimes we go, this sense of separation, this sense of us versus them and them versus us. I totally get it, and I experience it, as we talk about the mission and vision of Unity on the Bay and humanity inspired to its divinity. I love that, and on Sundays I experience it and I see it, and then I go home, and there's a couple of days between Sundays, and sometimes those days feel really long between Sundays, and I am in the choice, and I sometimes make the right choice. Well, let me not go into the dualism right and wrong. I sometimes make the choice of care, and I sometimes forget to make the choice of care. But I really invite us to consider that maybe what we're experiencing, and yes, I see it happening, is that the discord, this sense of separateness, this sense of us versus them, it's grasping for air because its time is very limited. We are awakening to a different and deeper way of understanding our oneness and our collective awakening. And so maybe it's just so desperate that it's grasping for air, and it feels like it's so powerful and strong, and we are stronger. God is more powerful. Unity and harmony is the antidote to it. But it takes our consciousness, and then it takes our collective commitment to that consciousness for us to take that we revolution leap, not step. It's a leap. And we are moving into forgetting about who we thought we were into where we've always been. One power, one expression of the divine in its beautiful, unique ways of being out into the world. Now, some of you may remember that I shared with you what may be considered the new motto of Unity on the Bay. Some of you should remember because I actually just said it this past Sunday. But it was sent to me by one of our congregants, Chris, and she found Psalm 133, verse 1. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. There's that word again. There we are again. So we are a collective of misfits in many ways, coming together in unity. And inside that collective awakening that we are a part of, getting away from the world of duality, of separation, of judgment, and of negativity, it really allows us, this misfitness of ours, to work together even more perfectly, to be the misfits that believe that we can create a new world, that creates what many have called the beloved community. And I've shared with you about the beloved community before. The beloved community the way that we're sharing it with you is really rooted in the African American experience here in the United States, and it was brought up into even greater light by Martin Luther King, MLK, and he spoke about the goal of everything that he was working on, right? Everything that he stood for, everything that he believed in was the creation of the beloved community. He says this about the beloved community, that it will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age, that it is the love which will bring about the miracles in the hearts of people. We've experienced those miracles, and as we are a blessing upon the world, we can make it easier for other people to experience those same miracles. Now, I want to share with you about, well, a little bit of science and a little bit of unity and how they come together. So when atoms join, they form molecules. When molecules join, they form cells. When cells form, they form tissue. When tissues come together, the body is formed. And so evolution is of these individual pieces coming together and creating a greater whole. In the same way, when our hearts are open, we form bonds, right? And we feel those bonds, and those bonds bring us together. And those bonds, when they're deepened, they form relationships. And when we nurture the relationships, we form kinship. And when we honor the kinship that is alive in us and in our relationships, that's when we form community. That is when community is created, and we know that we are all individual pieces of the Christ consciousness, the body of Christ, the incarnation of divinity. Now, in that same, using the same science and unity to see it, when a hydrogen atom joins, and a hydrogen atom is very important, and when it joins an oxygen atom, and oxygen atoms are very important too, but when they come together, they form water, and water is needed to sustain life. I would tell you that we are individual, beautiful, powerful expressions of the divine. And when we come together, we form community, and community is also needed to sustain life. Amen? Amen? And you find that community here. You find it with friends, with family. You create your own chosen families, right? Like, that is a part of this impulse that is alive within us. And when we are walking each other home, we recognize that when we rise together. When we fall, we get to pick each other up together. Now, what are the ways in which I want to share with you that you can continue to deepen and grow that community, the beloved community that we are experiencing here at Unity on the Bay, but also welcome other individuals into it, and also create a greater sense of the beloved community outside of these walls, is found in the pages from Mark Nepo. He has a book called More Together Than Alone. And he has these 5 ways in which we can create deepened community. The first one is to remember that we are not separate from each other. That when we harm somebody else, we are harming ourselves. That we love somebody else, we are loving ourselves. That when we show compassion, when we empower each other, when we see the vision of what's possible for other people, we allow ourselves to see it for ourselves. And we see through the illusion of separateness to begin to recognize the reality of our oneness. He also asks us to act from a place of wholehearted connection. Wholehearted connection, putting all of who we are, all the love that we get to embody, all the light that is within us into every single act, no matter how big and no matter how small, wholeheartedly in every moment, because all of us are so intertwined that even the smallest acts of kindness, the love that we share, creates a powerful shift, especially when we do it with all of our being. Has us to meet life, the outer life, from the inner life. And Unity on the Bay, I know that that's what we are about, right? To recognize that outside influences don't get the better of us, but that from the inside work that we've done and the inside awareness of who we are, we can influence our experiences and we can influence the world. Then the next one's a little tough for me, I'll be honest. And that's to engage all sides of the paradox. Oneness doesn't mean sameness. We are examples of that. And even beyond that, of the people that don't agree with us, of the people that are sometimes shouting very loudly how it is an us or them kind of mentality, that kind of survival. But could we engage all sides with curiosity, with just allowing ourselves to be open to experiencing wholeness, our oneness, even in the midst of disagreement, even in the midst of disagreements that can hurt? Because believe me, I feel hurt sometimes by them. And it can be really hard to do, and it can be really hard to do when the others feel like they're attacking. And that's the power of community. When we can't do it individually, that we can lean on each other to have the power to see with curiosity, how is this also God? How is this experience also for my good? And what is showing up and being birthed through me in this experience, so that we build bridges and we build bonds that strengthen our path forward. Because evolution is about moving forward. Evolution is about lifting each other up. And evolution and mutual awakening is no trolls left behind, for those of you who were here last Sunday. The fifth one, to commit to participating in life, not just watching it happen. I know that sometimes it could be hard to participate in it. And sometimes it's better to just watch it on the news or watch it from home. But Neil Donald Walsh talks about this. A life that is not made by conscious choice is a life of chance. And life is to be lived consciously. And I know many of us, when we first entered Unity, right? Like, we sat towards the back, didn't necessarily want to fully engage with everybody. We wanted to try it out. And it's time to come forward. It's time to engage. It's time to participate. It's time to build. It's time to lift each other up and continue to grow what it is that makes us so special. And then the fifth one is to bear witness how things are coming together. And it's with the same urgency that sometimes we get lost in trying to bear witness about how things are falling apart. You know, we see something that looks like something is falling apart, and all of a sudden we're engaged with it. We send the news article to all of our friends. You know, we feel some of the rage that may come up, and I'm not saying that it's not something that can powerfully move us. And are we also looking with that same tenacity and that same power for how things are working out? How things are being built up. And when things feel like they're falling apart, can we actually shift our consciousness to see how they are falling into place for a greater way of being and a greater way of us showing up? Now, when I say participate in the life of this community, and it's a community that is seeking to engage humanity in the truth of just how divine and perfect and beautiful the potential is within each and every one of us, I really invite you to take me at my word and participate. And so that is volunteer, right? Like after the service today, we have a little bit of a volunteer fair. Volunteer, see the ways in which you can be of service, a sacred service to this community, so that we can welcome more individuals, so that we can empower ourselves to be an even brighter light in the world that is around us. Continue to engage and support financially our programs. That's how we sustain that which houses this powerful presence and this powerful teaching. And that is how we empower, through participating the vision of mutual awakening, community, and heaven on earth. And I know that sometimes that vision can feel really heavy, right? It can feel heavy. Sometimes it's not easy to believe in it or to hold it within us. But Mark Nepo also says this: if the creation of the beloved community seems daunting, what matters is the kindness that we live out in trying to find it. What matters is the commitment to aim for our common good. Perhaps the heart of the beloved community is realized by how we live together along the way. Then let's just take that in for a moment. Let's continue to embody that more powerfully and strongly, and let us support each other in community to live it out more fully. Now, faith traditions and cultures have for eons been recognizing the power of our collective oneness and our unity. The Navajo, they teach that seeking wholeness is an individual work, but seeking harmony is a work of togetherness. And one of the primary teachings in the Navajo culture is to find harmony and feel harmony with all of life. The same can be said in the African tradition of Ubuntu, which is a Zulu word which basically means I am because you are, and you are because I am. And it is said that Ubuntu is the foundation of the spiritual foundation of the African society, of finding humanity in each other. There's also the Hindu practice when looking at non-duality that says, that are thou, or thou art that, no separation. And in mystical Christianity, which I believe unity to be, we find it because when the burning bush came up for Moses, and Moses was like, who the heck is that? You know, it said that God said, I am that I am. And yes, that means I am what it has always been and always will be, and you can trust it and have faith in it. But it's also, I am that I am. I am in you as you are in me. And there is a collective that brings us a bond that maybe we're just starting to experience or to learn about, but that has always been there. Many paths recognize the importance of moving from the me to the we, and that is the evolutionary pulse and impulse that has been around in the evolution of society. So sure, many of us can feel like misfits sometimes in a world that tries to tell us that separation is more real than oneness. And sure, we may be seen as rebels by some and questioned by others as we look at the world from a positive standpoint and look for the positivity and look at what is being birthed, rather what is being destroyed or bringing us further apart. And as we seek our own liberation and the liberation of all people, black, white, brown, gay, straight, trans, non-binary, women, men, all of it. When we may feel persecuted, I get it. There are times when we feel persecuted in our pursuit of equality, of liberation, and that's just what we're about. And we're about in the business of spiritual evolution, which is spiritual liberation, which is of the liberation of all of us into our divinity. And so I really invite you as we honor Unity on the Bay Day to honor that which is within you that tells you that as misfits, here we are to change the world. Now, I'm going to echo the words of maybe Rob Siltonen, because some people say it may also have been Steve Jobs. I don't know, maybe after today they'll say it's Juan Hierro. But here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And we do it through the consciousness and the power and the faith of unity. We do it in faith, we do it in trust, and we are empowered by love. And so I really invite you to join me as we continue to build the beloved community in expression for the weevolution that is taking place. Namaste, and love you, Unity on the Bay. we've had an amazing year so far here at Unity on the Bay, and it'll continue to just get sweeter and better and more grace-filled. But I want to, we started off the year so powerfully. We had our first ever random acts of kindness, where about 30 of us went to Wynwood and just shared kindness with people for a few hours. We had March Meditation Madness. We had an amazing Easter with an Easter sunrise service at the beach, and then the celebrations here. We went back to Miami Beach Pride for the first time in about 7 years. We had the Sizzle Effect. We can't forget Troll Day last Sunday. And we are celebrating today also the impact that our outreach programs through the Backpack Drive has. Now, our goal this year for the backpacks was 6,000 backpacks. Everybody go, ooh. I mean, that's 6,000 backpacks, right? In order to do that, we needed to raise $60,000. Well, let me tell you what we did. In the end, through the wonderful generosity of our partners like City National Bank, and I saw Eddie here, and the work that Eddie did at City National Bank, thank you. The work of Bill Gorman and Turnberry, Ileana Rodriguez, and each and every one of you. The Helen Vivian Fund that was created last year, or 2 years ago, to support the Backpack Drive. We reached, are you ready? Drum roll, please. $261. Now, I stand corrected from the first service, because when you actually add it, that means that since its inception, the Angels Everywhere Backpack Drive and Unity on the Bay and you have given over 65,000 backpacks to families in need, which means an equivalent of $745,000 to the community. We're getting to the million soon. And so thank you for everything that you've done to support it. And it's not only what we are feeling and what we are a part of, it is also what is being recognized and seen out in the world. And for me, what that means is that we just get more individuals that we can welcome to this essence and to this energy and this consciousness of generosity and of unity. Check out what took place on the news.
Well, the new school year is getting closer, and several nonprofits are lending a helping hand to families in Medley who need help getting ready to go back to school. For 18 years now in a row, Unity on the Bay is partnering with more than 25 nonprofits for the largest backpack drive in South Florida.
Oh, because we've been doing this over a decade, and we just saw a need in the community, and we wanted to bridge that gap for families so they don't have to choose between food or supplies for their kids.
Unity on the Bay and many other nonprofits not only handed out over 6,000 backpacks for kids in Broward and Miami-Dade, but also Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Unity on the Bay continues to do God's work out there every single day. Love that. That'll do it for us at 5:30. Time now for the news at 6.
Yes! Yes! 6,500 kids get to walk around with a...
Thank you for visiting our YouTube channel. We post new videos every week to keep you positive, present, and inspired to your divinity. So now please click on the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell. Remember to share this with your friends and family. We love you, we behold the Christ in you, and we see you doing great things.